What is the monolith? Hey everybody, Matt Colville here. This is the second in the 2001 series. It is my hope that when this series is done, and I think there's going to be 4 videos, maybe 5, and they'll be pretty short. Once this series is done, you'll be able to go watch 2001, and it will seem like a visually interesting, dramatic film. It will seem relatively straightforward, and it will make sense to you. Because it's my conviction that all the answers to the questions people have are right there in front of us. I think that in order to reach a deep understanding of something, you have to talk about it, or maybe write about it. The process of organizing your thoughts into something coherent so that other people can understand what you think changes how you think. I didn't really think much about 2001 other than I really liked it. I thought it was a good movie until one of my coworkers, an artist, Stephen Oakley, asked the people sitting near him, has anybody seen 2001? And when we all said, yeah, he asked, what was the monolith? I think a lot of people wonder that after they've seen 2001. They wonder, what is the monolith? Which is interesting to me because I think it's the first question the movie answers. So let's talk about it. What is the monolith? The answer to that question is in Act 1 of 2001, which is set in the Serengeti Plain, and we get this great title card, The Dawn of Man. And that tells us when this act of the film is set. It's before there were contemporary humans walking around. We spend all of Act 1 with these adorable folks, a bunch of monkeys. Technically, we should think of them as proto-humans. These evolve into us. And this film answers the question, how? It's worth talking a little bit about the history of science fiction and of actual science and how these two things come into conflict, because 2001 exists at this interesting crossroads. If you were writing science fiction back in the 1920s or 1930s, it was mostly rocket ships and ray guns and bug-eyed monsters kidnapping nubile young women. As science fiction started to get more sophisticated in the 1950s, I'd say, you started to get a lot more interesting storytelling. It wasn't just space adventure stories. You start to get what I think of as legitimate science fiction, what-if stories. Speculative fiction is what Harlan Ellison calls it. A lot of these stories, if you read them now, would seem to you like Twilight Zone episodes. I don't know, is the Twilight Zone still in the popular consciousness? I'm talking about the black and white TV show from the late 50s, early 60s. Some of these stories covered the origin of the human race because there is a tradition, a human cultural tradition, that human beings are different from all the other animals on this planet. We now have a much more sophisticated understanding of our origins and our place in the planet, and we realize that there isn't really anything special about us, we're just another kind of monkey. But if you were alive in the Victorian era, if you were somebody like Jules Verne writing, it was easy to imagine that humans were actually materially different than all the other animal species on this planet. You start to get these stories, and I think there actually is a Twilight Zone episode about this, where a spaceship crashes on Earth, and the crew, many of them are killed, only a couple survive, many of them are picked off until there are only 2 remaining, a man and a woman. You can see where this is going, and throughout the story, the man and woman have only been referred to as like Captain this or Lieutenant that. They've only been referred to by their rank and their last names, and only once there are only 2 left do they ask each other what their first names are, and it turns out their first names are Adam and Eve. And that they've crashed on Earth, right? This is the idea that human beings are different from all the other animals on this planet because our origins are extraterrestrial. This is just history, by the way. This is not stuff you need to know to understand what happens in 2001. I'm just laying the historical groundwork in the genre. The mid to late 60s come around, and that kind of story becomes implausible. People won't believe it because Watson and Crick have discovered the structure of DNA, and we now begin to understand that we are really just another kind of monkey. There literally is nothing that separates us from the other creatures. We belong to this planet. We are part of its evolutionary tradition. But Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke, I think mostly Kubrick, based on what I know about how the both of them thought, had an idea for how we could still say that human beings were different. There was something special about us, and we belong to this planet, that both are true. In other words, he wanted to tell a story that showed how we were both a kind of monkey, and we belonged to this planet, and our origin, our nature, was of extraterrestrial origin. And that is what you are watching in Act 1. We spend a lot of time with this tribe of monkeys as they just hang out and they drink water from a watering hole. I understand why people watching this sort of get confused as to what's going on because all the monkeys look exactly the same. There's no way to tell one monkey from another. These proto-humans, these monkeys, go about their daily lives, and we just spend a lot of time watching them, and that's part of 2001 as cinema, as art, is that you're just supposed to sit back and let this experience wash over you. And ideally, if the movie works on you, you sort of lose track of time. You're not aware of time passing. You're just watching these monkeys do their thing. We watch one of our monkeys get attacked by a cheetah, I think, or a leopard, and I think get killed. I think this scene basically just shows how capricious life on the Serengeti was, but it may be that the death of this monkey is significant and the reason our tribe of monkeys loses the conflict coming up. Frankly, this whole sequence is fascinating for me to watch because I sort of know how Kubrick set these shots up, and no movie was ever shot like this, by the way, and I don't think any movie would ever be shot again. You should go look up how the front projection and how 2001 used it, because it's kind of crazy. Our tribe of monkeys is hanging out at the watering hole, which we've seen them do before, and slowly over the course of the scene, we see other monkeys show up. We never get an establishing shot of this because of the way the set was built. There was literally no place to put the camera so that we could watch like our monkeys on one side and these new monkeys showing up on the other side. I think that may be part of why this act is somewhat hard to decode because we never get a really good establishing shot. Instead, we watch these new monkeys come up over the ridge and then they confront our monkeys. These new monkeys are much more aggressive. Our monkeys, the monkeys we've been watching and following so far, immediately retreat. And for a little while, both sides are in a standoff, and then the leader of the evil monkey tribe, I don't know what else to call them, the other tribe of monkeys, runs into the watering hole and stands in the middle of it, and now, basically, the watering hole belongs to the bad monkeys, and our monkeys are out of luck. They've lost a conflict over the watering hole. They've been dominated by this other tribe of monkeys and forced to retreat. That's an important point because there's going to be a reversal of fortune coming up. And in order to understand why that's significant, we need to know that there was a conflict. It wasn't really a battle. There was a conflict over this watering hole and our monkeys lost. Now we watch our monkeys at night and they're huddling together for warmth and they just look dejected. There's no dialogue, obviously, in this entire scene because language hadn't been developed yet, but our monkeys obviously seem dejected and they're kind of looking at each other with accusing glances like, it's your fault we lost the battle of the watering hole. Now what are we going to do? We got no water. And even though it's not clear to me which monkey is which, one of them is sort of separated out from the rest of the group and sort of looking up at the sky, and the main monkey, the main proto-human in this sequence is known as Moonwatcher. That's what he's called in the script, and I think it's because of this. I think it's because he's apart from the other monkeys and he's bathed in moonlight. So there's something different about this monkey, I think is the point. We get a great shot of the same cheetah that killed one of our monkeys earlier, and now he's killed a zebra. It's actually a horse painted to look like a zebra. It's movie magic, but he's killed a zebra and he's kind of hanging out being really happy with himself. Again, showing that nature is fine without us. Whatever has happened with the monkeys, whatever's going to happen with the monkeys, this cheetah's probably going to be fine. Nature, the movie is saying, is indifferent. The cheetah isn't good or bad, it's just successful. It's dawn the following day after the battle for the watering hole, and our monkeys wake up, and one monkey notices that something has changed overnight. We don't see what immediately, but we can tell something ominous is happening because the choir starts chanting. And it's this crazy discordant music. And he's freaked out by something, and he pounds his leg and howls as though to wake up his buddies and say, hey, there is some crazy stuff happening right now. And of course, we are wondering what? We can't see what he sees. Cut to a wide shot, and it's the monolith. It wasn't there last night. Something has happened while the monkeys were asleep, and they wake up and they find this massive black obelisk standing there. And it is to them a very alien thing. It's not just that it appeared overnight. It's that it doesn't look like anything they've experienced before. It is obviously made, and to them, something made would look alien. Also, by the way, the monolith is the same dimensions as a 70mm print of film, which I do not think is a coincidence. The monkeys all wake up and they surround this thing and they howl at it and they're kind of challenging it. Even their primitive brains understand that this is some kind of alien intrusion into their landscape. But what is it? What is the monolith? Stay tuned, you are about to see what it is. All of these monkeys are afraid, but one of them conquers his fear. His curiosity gets the better of him and he approaches the monolith. He reaches out and bravely touches it. Nothing happens to him. He doesn't blow up. He doesn't get shocked. So he touches it again. And this is, I think, partly an act to show the other monkeys that he is the bravest. There's no way to tell just by looking, but in the script, it is clear that this is Moonwatcher. The other monkeys see that Moonwatcher wasn't hurt by touching the monolith. They're all curious, so they all approach and they each individually touch the monolith. We see a great shot of the sun and moon aligning over the monolith, and that shot doesn't mean anything at this moment. I don't think that alignment is significant, but stay tuned. Some time passes, we're not sure how much, but I don't think it's been more than a day. And now our monkeys, who remember they lost the Battle of the Watering Hole, they're dejected, they're picking around the bones of an earlier battle, probably trying to find, is there any more meat left? Is there any more marrow? Moonwatcher is digging around in the dirt surrounded by bones, and he has an idea. You see him head down, digging around in the dirt, and then suddenly he looks up. It seems very clear to me he's saying, I have an idea. Then, not coincidentally, we cut to that same shot of the monolith. I'm not exactly sure why Kubrick put this shot here, but I think it's one of two reasons. Either A, this is Moonwatcher remembering the monolith, or B, this is the monolith acting. Moonwatcher was brave, Moonwatcher's curiosity overcame his fear, Moonwatcher touched the monolith, and now, sometime later, the monolith is rewarding him. Moonwatcher looks at the bones and tilts his head, looking at them from a different angle, seeing them in a different way, in a new way. They're no longer just bones. And we get this association that no one had ever made before, but people would then make forever after, which is the eureka sound. It's Strauss and Thus Spake Zarathustra, which is now classic, and we always will associate this music with that eureka moment. Because of this scene. What is the eureka moment? Moonwatcher picks up a bone, sniffs it, looks at it, and starts playing around with it. We have never seen these proto-humans, we have never seen these monkeys use any tools. But now Moonwatcher has a tool. And more than a tool, he has a weapon. He immediately uses this new tool, this bone, as a weapon. He starts destroying the bones around him. And it's triumphant, it's exultant, because we're showing proto-humans becoming humans. We're showing proto-humans learning tool use. They immediately start dominating their landscape. He destroys skulls with it, and then he starts killing tapir. The implication being that now that they have tools, they can hunt much more efficiently, and immediately we see him eating. This is the reward for developing weapons. First, Moonwatcher is eating tapir meat, and now all the monkeys are eating tapir meat. Our tribe of monkeys is a little bit better off now that they've developed weapons. We get one brief shot showing night, and immediately it's the next day, and we see Moonwatcher in the first shot of the next day threatening someone with his new tool. If we've been paying attention to the movie up till now, we know who he's threatening. It's the watering hole, it's the other tribe of monkeys, but this time our tribe of monkeys has weapons. Our tribe of monkeys touched the monolith. Also, notice that our monkeys are walking a little bit more upright now. Moonwatcher wades into the pool and confronts the leader of the other tribe of monkeys, and you can see the other tribe are still very aggressive. They do not understand what has happened. They don't know what these strange things in the hands of our monkeys mean. They don't yet know. They've already lost. After 65 million years of evolution, intelligence is now the weapon of choice. The leader of the enemy tribe charges Moonwatcher just like he did before, and initially Moonwatcher runs away, but he immediately turns around and smashes the enemy leader in the skull with his new weapon, and the enemy leader falls down and starts twitching. He's, at this point, already probably dead. Surprised and delighted at the effectiveness of his new weapon, Moonwatcher adds insult to injury. The other monkeys come up and give it a try, until ultimately our tribe of monkeys triumphs, it's their watering hole, and the enemy tribe of monkeys is driven off. In a moment of triumph, Moonwatcher hurls his weapon into the sky, and we get the 2-million-year jump cut. It's the most famous match cut in cinema because the bone that Moonwatcher hurls into the sky in one frame in 1/24th of a second jumps 2 million years ahead and instantly turns into another piece of technology, another tool. Now, we don't know this watching the movie, but if you read the script, you know that this is a weapon. It's a thermonuclear bomb. One weapon turned into another. That's the end of Act 1, and we now know what the monolith is. It's an uplift device. The monolith appeared, the proto-humans were scared, and the proto-human who was able to overcome his terror, the proto-human in which curiosity was stronger than fear, was rewarded. That's the meaning of this cut. It's showing you what Moonwatcher is thinking. He's either remembering the monolith and his experience with it, or this is literally the monolith acting. It's a cut to the monolith to show us that even though the monolith isn't moving, it is influencing events. It has raised the intelligence of these monkeys so that they become tool users and the other monkeys become extinct. We are the descendants of these monkeys. That is the job of the monolith. It is obviously an alien device. It was left on this planet by aliens who then left. And all the monolith does is it sits there and it waits and rewards whoever is more curious than afraid. It rewards them with intelligence. And this is an important point, I think. It doesn't reward these monkeys for being good. It doesn't care if these monkeys are good or evil. It doesn't care what these monkeys do with their tools. It only cares that they're more curious than afraid. It has no way of knowing if they're good. And in fact, you could argue that since the first thing these monkeys do is kill other monkeys, that the monoliths, maybe it should be a little bit more worried about ethics. But again, ethics is a human notion, and the monolith is, by its nature, alien. Maybe, to the aliens, curiosity is goodness. I think that's a straightforward interpretation of what we see in the film. It seems kind of obvious to me. I think the only problem is that it's so drawn out because of Kubrick's filmmaking technique, where he's trying to impress you with how beautiful all the shots are. He's trying to get you to feel like you're there with the monkeys, and that takes time. And so we have no dialogue. We have long shots. Kubrick uses very little motion in his shots. The camera almost never moves, which gives everything a very painterly look. It also makes everything look sort of like you're watching dioramas in a museum, which I think is not by accident. Hopefully my conclusions are non-controversial, but if you disagree, please let me know in the comments. Next episode in this series, we're going to talk about the ultimate machine, the ultimate tool that humans create. We're going to talk about HAL. Because I think HAL has gotten a bad rap in the last 48 years. We've talked about the Russians, we've talked about the monkeys. Next time, we talk about HAL. Until then, peace out.